I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN. Well, when you report fake news, when you report fake news, which CNN does a lot, you are the enemy of the people. Go ahead.
Yo, this, among many reasons, is the reason why Jim Acosta, CNN news reporter, lost his job this morning. My name is Marcus Russell.
Alex W, man.
It's the Marcus Russell Show. Yo, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. I need 100,000 subscribers. Keep it going. Check out Bro's page in the description. Let's get right to it. This is it, guys.
This is one.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to challenge you on one of the statements that you made in the tail end of the campaign in the midterms.
Here we go.
If you don't mind, Mr. President, that this caravan was an invasion. As you know, Mr. President,
I consider it to be an invasion.
As you know, Mr. President, the caravan was not an invasion. It's a group of migrants moving up from Central America towards the border with the U.S.
Thank you for telling me that. I appreciate it.
Why did you characterize it as such?
Because I consider it an invasion. You and I have a difference of opinion.
But do you think that you demonized immigrants in this election to try to keep?
I want them to come into the country, but they have to come in legally. You know, they have to come in, Jim, through a process. I want it to be a process, and I want people to come in, and we need the people.
Your campaign.
Wait. You know why we need the people, don't you? Because we have hundreds of companies moving in. We need the people.
But your campaign had an ad showing migrants climbing over walls and so on.
That's true. But they weren't actors.
They're not going to be doing that.
They weren't actors. Well, no, it's true. Do you think they were actors?
Yep,
They weren't actors.
No,
they didn't come from Hollywood.
Right.
These were people. This was an actual. You know, it happened a few days ago, and
there are hundreds of.
And as you know, they really did invade.
Yeah, and it's been a problem for years. We've been trying to, as Republicans, been trying to voice it out to people, and people still don't see it because they see you as having no sympathy for wanting to better the country.
The conversation seems distasteful. I agree, but it just is what it is at this point.
It's the reality.
You know, and Jim Acosta, he's rude.
Yeah.
He's a
CNN reporter. At the end of the day, he's a CNN reporter. You know, you gotta be real.
Right. Look, check him out, YouTube.
Let's keep going, man. Make sure you guys hitting that subscribe button.
Because Trumpito about to cuss him
clean out.
miles away, though. They're hundreds and hundreds of miles away. That's not an invasion.
Honestly, I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN.
All right.
And if you did it well, your ratings would be much better.
If I may ask one other question, Mr. President, if I may ask one other question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President, I was going to ask one of the other folks.
That's enough.
Pardon me, ma'am. Mr. President,
that's enough.
Mr. President, I had one other question, if I may ask, on the Russia investigation. Are you concerned that you may have?
I'm not concerned about anything with the Russian investigation because it's a hoax. That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this investigation?
Mr. President.
I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN. Go ahead.
Oh, wow.
I think that's unfair.
You're a very rude person. The way you treat Sarah Huckabee is horrible. And the way you treat other people are horrible. You shouldn't treat people that way. Go ahead. Go ahead, Peter. Go ahead.
In Jim's defense, I've traveled with him and watched him. He's a diligent reporter who busts his butt.
Well, I'm not
like
a big fan of yours either, so,
I understand.
to be honest.
So let me ask you a question, if I can. You repeatedly said...
You aren't the best.
Mr. President, you repeatedly, over the course of the...
Okay, just sit down, please. Well, when you report fake news, when you report fake news, which CNN does a lot, you are the enemy of the people. Go ahead.
Mr. President, over the course...
And that right there is extremely why their viewings are so horrible, you know?
Okay, I think so. They was going to move Jim Acosta. They wasn't going to fire him at first. They were just going to move him to the midnight slot and put Wolf Blitzer and Pamela Brown.
The same guy that J.D. Vance annihilated.
Right, that guy J.D. just ate up the other day.
Yeah.
They was going to switch them slots and put Pamela Brown in his slot also. And this is mainly because of this conversation right here, this disrespectful interaction he had with our president. And, he didn't want that slot. So it was either take the midnight slot or go home.
He tried to make it look like, okay, we all know what happened.
Right. He tried to make it look like he quit, but no, he had an option. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So, and it's always better to quit than to get fired. Because if you get fired, then you don't get none of your
benefits,
Social Security, 401k, none of that. So
let's keep going, guys. Let's in here.
Over the course of the last several days of the campaign, Sir, at the end of the campaign, you repeatedly said that Americans need to fear Democrats. You said Democrats would unleash a wave of violent crime that endangers families everywhere. Why are you
Because they're
pitting
very weak on
Americans?
crime.
Why are
Excuse
you
me.
pitting Americans
Peter.
against one another, sir?
Peter, what are you trying to be him?
No, I'm
Peter,
just
let me
asking a question.
let me
Peter,
just
you trying
say
to be him?
Very simple. Because they're very weak on crime. Because they have often suggested, members and people within the Democrat Party at a high level have suggested getting rid of ICE, getting rid of law enforcement. That's not going to happen, okay? We want to be strong on the borders. We want to be strong on law enforcement, and I want to cherish ICE because ICE does a fantastic job. What they do for us is so it's so unrecognized how good a job they do. So we want to take care of them, and we want to hold them very close because they do a good job.
But the question,
Okay,
to be clear, though, the question,
Thank you
sir,
very
is
much.
why are you?
Sit down.
But the question, but you didn't answer my
Sit down,
question. Just very simply, the
Please.
question is, why are you pitting Americans against one another, sir?
I'm not.
Is that how you view
No, I'm not.
citizens
well,
of
look,
this country?
I'll tell you what. We won a lot of elections last night. We did very well last night.
But in many ways,
I
it
think it's
divided
going
the
to have.
country.
I think it's going to have a very positive impact. I watched NBC this morning. They didn't report it exactly correctly, but that's
Never do.
very. That's the fact with NBC. Nothing I can do about that. But I want this country to have protection. We want security in our country. I want security, Peter. I mean, you maybe don't think it's so important. And I think when you don't have it, you are indeed unleashing crime. I feel that. Go
You
ahead.
said you would
Yeah.
sign an executive order on birthright citizenship. Are you still going to sign the executive order on birthright citizenship
You'll
this
ask
week?
me that question a little bit later. Go ahead.
Okay.
And there was no collusion. There was no anything. I didn't. They went after hackers in Moscow. I don't know about that. They went after people with tax problems from years ago. They went after people with loans and other things. Had nothing to do with my campaign. This is a investigation where many, many millions of dollars has been spent, and there's no collusion. It was supposed to be on collusion. There's no collusion, and I think it's very bad for our country. I will tell you. I think it's a shame. And a poll came out today, by the way, from NBC, or at least I saw it on NBC, where a majority of the people do not agree with the Mueller investigation, or it wasn't approved. They have approval and disapproval, and it had a much higher disapproval. It should end because it's very bad for our country.
So if it's bad,
And I'm not just talking about the tremendous expense. And the other thing is they should look at the other side
They don't
also.
care about what's
They
bad
only
for
look at
us.
one
Nah.
side. They're not looking at all of the things that came up during this investigation. They don't do that. They should also get people that can be fair, not 13 or 14 or 17. I call them the angry Democrats. They are angry people. And it's a very unfair thing for this country. It's a very, very, forget about unfair to me, it's very bad for our country.
so Mr. President, if it's
Go ahead.
Mr.
No, no,
President,
no.
just wait, just wait. If it's unfair to the country and it's costing millions of dollars, why don't you just
Give him the
end
mic,
it?
please. I've answered the question. Go ahead, take the mic. Well, I'll give you I will give you voter suppression. You just have to sit down, please. Sit down. I didn't call you. I didn't call you. I'll give you voter suppression. Take a look at the CNN polls, how inaccurate they were. That's called voter suppression.
Facts.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Facts.
I'm not responding. I'm
call
responding.
you.
Excuse me. I'm not responding
No.
to you. I'm talking to this gentleman. Will you please sit down? Excuse me.
down, girl.
Would you please sit down? Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Right.
Now that the House of
Very
Representatives
hostile.
has fled,
It's such a hostile media. It's so sad. You ask me about. No, you rudely interrupted him.
Get her.
Interrupted him. Go ahead.
Get her.
thank you, Mr. President. Do your demands remain the same to the United States Congress on immigration in exchange for a DACA fix, in exchange for an amnesty for 1.7 million? Are you willing to change any of those demands that you gave to Congress earlier?
I think we could really do something having to do with DACA. And what really happened with DACA, we could have done some pretty good work on DACA, but a judge ruled that DACA was okay. Had the judge not ruled that way, I think we would have made a deal. Once the judge ruled that way, the Democrats didn't want to talk anymore. So we'll see how it works out at the Supreme Court.
Yo, that was a perfect trying to answer questions with being attacked by media. Example of how alpha this president is. Like
Yeah,
he's in a room full of imbeciles,
and he knows how to control it.
right? Literally
So
disrespecting him. You know,
he's just, I don't know, man. I think his ability to man a room is way better than Biden's ever could have been. You know,
facts.
we want to show you guys this video of a 19, I want to say 90 clip that surfaced of Joe Biden basically planning on what he was going to do. He was against the border. He's been against the border forever, but he let the most illegals in. So
And now the Iceman and Trumpedo's office is here to clean it
yeah,
up. And like we say over and over again, yes, this is going to be ugly. Yes, it's distasteful.
I've been saying this.
But it's just something that is beyond repair in a normal way. And we can't be a sanctuary country. There's no such
Yeah.
thing. That just sounds crazy.
So since we're closing out, I've been saying this a long time on my channel that a lot of people are going to lose their jobs. Yes, a lot of people are going to get deported. It's going to be sad, but this type of stuff needs to happen.
I'm
Because you
sorry.
obviously see how horrible of a person these people are.
I'm sorry.
So
And then like CNN and like MSNBC, y'all really need to step it up and like be more respectful too to the president. He
Yeah.
is the president now.
Yeah.
Have some respect for Christ's sakes.
Definitely true.
For the love of America, respect your president in front of the camera or you're going to lose your job.
Yeah.
Like Jim Acosta just did.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think in the comments.
Be sure to check out my channel in the description. Hit the subscribe button over there.
That part.
I'm out.